Hello everyone, please get comfortable. Today we'll be listening to, my little sister was the most harmless kid on the block, but then she started playing Call of Duty. The thrill of competition does different things to different people. For some, it excites them, and sweetens the very air in their lungs. For others, it scares them, and causes them to shrink away from challenges like small rodents being swept towards a towering inferno. Most human beings fall somewhere in between these two extremes, and their lives are all the better for it. There is a small portion of people though, like my little sister, who don't, and therefore should be regarded as some of the most dangerous people on the planet. I remember how my little sister, Courtney, looked before I introduced her to Call of Duty. She wore her hair in a ponytail, placed animal stickers on her shirt, and always smeared too much lip gloss, which she routinely stole from my mum's makeup drawer, on her lips. In other words, she was the quintessential 10-year-old girl, giggly, free-spirited, and energetic to the point that she skipped everywhere she went. The word innocence trailed behind her every step, just like her chronically untied shoelaces. Everybody who knew her gushed over her every breath, and her smile was so sweet that it made even the most cold-hearted of teachers blush. But then I introduced her to Call of Duty, and that sweet little girl soon became swallowed up by a behemoth so frightening that just the thought of what she has done fills my eyes with tears, and sends my heart palpitating inside my chest. I can remember that fateful day as if it were yesterday, for it started a chain of events that has not only ruined my life, but the lives of countless others. This chain of events began the moment I called her into my room last month and placed a controller in her hand. I had just returned home from college for the summer, and given how much she had missed me, I wanted to do something fun with her. Since you've been so bored this week, I said, why don't we play a game together? She looked down at the controller, which dwarfed her tiny palms, as if it were an alien object. But I've never played before, she said. I've always thought that video games are boring. Don't Brittany and Tristan play Xbox? Those were two of her best friends. They do, but not when I'm around. They know that I would rather go outside, which they say is only fun when I'm there because I know all of the good games. I see. Don't bother me then about not spending enough time with you. The rain is supposed to continue for another week, and the park will still be muddy for at least 2 days after it stops. Playing Xbox is all we have. I knew this was a lie, but the thought of spending my summer watching Animal Planet with her on Netflix, the other alternative, filled my stomach with dread. And besides, I wanted her to try something new. She had enjoyed playing sports ever since she was a little girl, and had a competitive edge. I thought that she might get a kick out of playing Call of Duty with me. If I would have known then just what kind of monster gaming would make her though, I would have gladly spent the entire summer watching Animal Planet, and would have dissected and applauded every episode as if it were a new Christopher Nolan movie. Fine, she said, placing her fingers on the triggers. I will give it a shot. I booted up Call of Duty and created us a private lobby. I then loaded us into the game, took a few moments to teach her the controls, and started playing. Like the kind big brother I was, I let her win that first match. She screamed victoriously the moment she reached the kill limit. Her scream was so triumphant that it caused me to glance over at her and smile. I could practically see the dopamine firing off in her brain like bullets from the assault rifles roaring on the television screen, and would have put my arm around her shoulders if she didn't hate being touched so much. Little did I know that by giving her this first taste of success, I sent the competitive urges she already possessed spiraling into the stratosphere, and opened the doors for the chaos that was soon to follow. I let her win the second match, which only intensified her pleasure. The moment the game ended she started whooping, hollering, and beating her hands on the floor as if she had just won the lottery. Although I thought her behavior at the time was extreme, I just figured she was enjoying the game. Video games excited me too at her age, and still do, so I never imagined that her relation could lead to anything other than a new hobby for her to enjoy. It was when I beat her during our third game though that I began to grow cautious of her wild emotions. Immediately after the word defeat flashed across her screen in bold red letters, she slammed her controller onto the ground and glared at me with so much hatred I felt like I was staring into the eyes of the little girl from The Exorcist. "That's not fair," she screamed. "You cheated." I looked at her with widened eyes, stunned by this uncharacteristic and sudden burst of anger. "I did not cheat," I said. "I just played better than you that match. Nobody can win every game, Courtney. Even the best players in the world occasionally lose." "Play me again," she said, based on the redness engulfing her face and how tightly her hands were gripping her controller. I doubt that she even heard a word I said. "Fine," I said. "Let's play another one." This time I played my best, and beat her so badly that angry tears filled her eyes the moment the defeat graphic once again plastered its red letter across her half of the screen. Before I had time to say something to calm her down, she reared back her arm and threw her controller with as much strength as she could muster into my TV. The force of the blow shattered the glass into dozens of pieces, and sent the base careening off of my shelf and onto the floor. Silence then consumed the room, which was only broken by the violent breaths she was sucking in and out of her mouth. I was so stunned by the sight of the wreckage in front of me that I didn't speak for over a minute. When I did finally manage to get my vocal cords working, my voice was filled with so much anger I nearly started trembling. "I can't believe you just did that," I said. "Do you know how much that TV cost me? You're a cheater," she said, rising to her feet. "I'm not a cheater. I'm just better than you. I've been playing Call of Duty for almost as long as you've been alive." She then flashed me such an angry look that it gives me chills just thinking about it. "You just wait," she said. "I'm going to practice, and then the next time we play I'm going to beat you so bad you're going to quit the game forever." Before I had a chance to respond, she flew from my room, hurled herself out the front door, and then disappeared into her friend Brittany's house, which was only 3 houses down the street. I then called my dad and told him about the incident. He said that he would punish her when he got home, and to try my best to calm down. So I hung up the phone, took a deep breath, and tried to move past the event. Luckily I had a spare TV from when I was in high school. I had bought the other one for college, so I cleaned up the mess and hooked up my old TV. I then continued playing. My dad called me an hour later. "I need you to go and get your sister from Brittany's house," he said. His voice was higher pitched than normal, as if he was stressed out. "Why, what's going on?" I said. "Why can't she just walk home like she always does?" "Because she just broke Brittany's arm and locked herself in her room. Brittany's mom has been trying to get her to come out for over 30 minutes. But she said Courtney either curses at her or ignores her." Apparently they were playing Call of Duty, and then things got heated. "Courtney is still in the playing as we speak, and I need you to go over there and coax her out. I'm stuck in traffic, and won't be able to get there for another hour." My body filled with numbness at the thought of Courtney breaking anybody's arm, much less her best friend's. She was so young, and so docile. But then the spiteful look she had hurled at me after I had beaten her returned to my mind, and caused me to shudder. "I will do my best to bring her home," I said. "I'm heading over there now." "Thank you," he said. "I will be there as soon as I can." The moment I rang the doorbell, Brittany's mum came running to the door. "Thank God you're here, Brian," she said, wrapping her arms around my neck. I had feared that she would berate me upon my arrival given the horrifying injury my sister had just inflicted on her daughter, and was relieved to see shock reflected on her face rather than rage. "Courtney's still in Brittany's room," she said. "Follow me." I followed her up the stairs. We then paused in front of a white door plastered with Hello Kitty stickers. "It's Brian, Courtney," I said. "Please open up. It's time to go home." "Go to hell," she retorted, voice ringing loud and clear from under the doorway despite the grenades exploding through the TV. I flashed Brittany's mom a surprised look. The shock in her eyes matched my own. "She's been saying worse things to me," she said. "She called me a bitch a few moments before you got here." "That's so unlike her." I looked back at the door, and imagined Courtney sitting in there, face glued to the TV screen as if she were on the moon and it was her only source of oxygen. I stood there for several minutes unsure of what to do before an idea formed in my mind. "Hey Courtney," I said, trying my best to keep my voice calm. "It sounds like you're getting pretty good in there. How about we do a rematch? I think that you might beat me this time." She was silent for so long I thought that my words had gotten swallowed up by the battlefield dancing in front of her eyes. But then her voice rang out from under the door. "Only if you promise not to let me win." "I promise," I said. A few moments later I could hear her feet crossing the floor. I stepped back just as she opened the door, and then smiled when I saw her face, as if that day had been the most normal day of our lives. "Come in," she said. The moment I passed into Brittany's room she slammed and locked the door behind us. My first reaction was to pick her up and carry her out of the house, regardless of how much it would cause her to rage. Given that I would have to carry her down a flight of stairs and across the street though, I decided to only use physical force if I had no other choice. So I followed her over to the bed and sat down next to her. She already had the private lobby pulled up, and within moments we spawned into the game. "Remember," she said, "you promised not to let me win." "I will know if you're not trying." "Okay," I said. My plan was simple. I would get one kill away from victory, and then fumble it at the last second. Allowing her to get a kill or two to win the match shouldn't come across as suspicious, and would hopefully calm her down enough for me to persuade her to come home. As we traded kill after kill, I could tell my plan was working. A thick line of sweat lined her brow, and she was sitting on the edge of the bed. So captivated was she by our match that I doubted she could even sense me sitting next to her. The moment of truth arrived when the score reached 49-48 in my favor. She had set the kill limit to 50, so my plan was to throw the last two fights and hand her the victory. Much to my horror, I had forgotten that the gun class I had selected caused my character to drop a live grenade upon death. And after allowing her to stab me, one of these grenades exploded under her feet and sent her character hurtling off of a bridge, handing me the victory. The moment the word defeat flashed across her screen once again in bright red letters, a scream so guttural ripped through her throat that my body broke out in chills. It was while listening to this scream echo around the room that I decided that the situation had deteriorated too far for me to control her through words. So I threw her over my shoulder and carried her thrashing back to our house, a feat which took over 20 minutes. When my dad arrived home a few minutes later, he barged into Courtney's room and gave her such a verbal thrashing I thought that he was going to give himself an aneurysm. Eventually my mom returned home from work and calmed us all down, and the night passed with all of us nestled in our beds. When I awoke the next morning though, I discovered something so terrifying in my bathroom that I nearly slipped and went crashing into the tiles beneath my feet. The moment I saw it, all of my toiletries were covered in peanut butter. Given how allergic I am to peanuts, if I wouldn't have looked down and noticed this substance before brushing my teeth, or rubbing on some deodorant, I almost certainly would have died. It was then that I knew that Courtney had snuck into my room in the middle of the night and tried to poison me. Whether this was a threat or a genuine attempt at ending my life, I don't know. All I know is that it was just the beginning. I didn't write this story. Credit goes out to writer. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe.